this is like kind of easily my like most vulnerable project. I was like more comfortable showing my flaws in a more direct sense instead of like a more like general, oh, I'm not the best person in the world. I can be selfish sometimes too, or whatever the case might be. And a lot more just like, man, I had this really fucked up thought and I'm like sitting and pondering as to what that says about me. So here I'm gonna like put it out in a song and things like that. And I think that's also because of like thinking about like Elucid. Elucid has that line on it's on I Told Bessie. I'm blanking on the name of the joint, but it's there'd be no blues if I was blameless. It's like that feels like that was kind of the philosophy of emergency, at least to me.
Microphone check, 1 2. What is this? It's the 5'7" assassin in the podcast business. I am your host, Rohan Patra, the rap music plug at your service. Here we are again at the end of a rainbow. Nothing gets me more psyched than an artist maximizing their potential, fulfilling the promise of their talents. A notable thing about this dynamic, though, is that in the vast majority of times I'm referring to, this usually happens when an artist finally delivers the project they were capable of, typically years and years into their careers, after seeing them release a handful of works that just kind of missed the mark or left something to be desired or didn't fully put it all together. This is precisely what separates today's guest Shemar from the pack. As the Brooklyn rapper producer, still in his early 20s, with only a few projects under his belt, delivered what I feel will go down as not only a defining record of 2025, but a seminal record within this current youth movement of boundary pushing hip hop in the New York underground rap scene. Wise beyond his years, Shemar's latest album, Emergency, is a thought provoking, experimental piece of beautiful chaos that harnesses the Brooklynites' poetic lyricism and the jagged musical dissonance courtesy of the album's talented set of producers, creating something truly magical, truly out of this world great. In this episode, we discuss Shemar's poetry background, the key influence of Elucid on his artistic development, and the lyrical and musical inspirations found within this excellent new album, Emergency. The Rap Music Plug podcast presented by QLC TV is the remedy to the I don't have anything good to listen to problem. Through in-depth artist interviews, album reviews, and general rap commentary on the best that the underground rap scene has to offer, this is your one-stop shop to knowing what to add to your queue, play next, or pop into your record player. Welcome to the show. Shemar, how you doing today?
I'm chilling. I'm chilling. How about yourself?
I'm great. I'm great. I remember when we first met. It was the Maps release show in
Hmm.
BK. I think I was like, I remember where I was standing because I was like on the kind of like the right side of the room, and then child actor like tapped me on the shoulder, being like, "Yo, I want to introduce you to someone." And I think he'd earlier told me he wanted to introduce me to you, but like I don't know, I didn't really remember that part. And then
Hmm.
like you were kind of quiet and like you was telling me like I think at this time you had one project that had maybe recently dropped that I remember he was like you should check this out and I did
Yeah.
and I liked it. I think that was which one? It was the one. Yeah, it was Sound
That's
of
probably
Summer
like,
burning the body. I think that was out.
yeah.
Yeah, September. Yeah, that'd been out
Yeah.
for like a year. Okay, yeah. So that's what I had checked out and I was like, "Okay, word, that's sick." And I know you guys were working on music and
Hmm.
yeah, it's just crazy to see you now that you're here. He
Yeah.
really co-signed you and it was
No,
well worth it.
it's so
So,
crazy too, because at that time we had like no songs together. We like just started talking. So like knowing he just gave all that love really meant a lot. Yeah.
yeah, like what how did that connection really even start? Like how did you guys first get to know each other and then
Mhm.
make music together and like how important generally has he been like for you so far as an artist?
So Child Actor is my favorite producer. I first heard of him, or like obviously he was on Terror Management, but like I didn't even really register it. But
Me
like
neither. I
obviously
didn't know who he
with
was at the time.
but with when Shrines and you hear Charms and it's like what the fuck is this? how does this exist? Who is this? And it's like, okay, child actor, who's child actor? And then, the stuff on brass and so on and so forth. But it was when he dropped the Ajay 2 instrumentals. I work at a school and I was just like playing the beats for the kids or whatever.
Mm.
And then I just like posted on my IG, like my close friend story, and it's like, yo, I would die to rap on a child actor beat. And then apparently, Big Flowers, shout out to Big Flowers, they screenshotted it and they sent it to child actor, and they were like, "Yo, just trust me." And then child actor sent a beat, and that wound up becoming Affirmation 2. And then just from there, we just started like talking things like that. I think we have like, well, obviously he's like an influence on my own production, but I think in regards to like our interests in production, our sensibilities, maybe we have a lot of similarities. Like I remember one of our first early conversations was just like how sick rappers who like also produce are, thinking of
Hmm.
like Rock Marciano, Navy Blue, so on and so forth. Yeah, and then like this is probably like around what was that, like May, the maps
Yeah, that
release
was like
show, like
May.
May
That was May
2023.
2023. Yeah.
Yeah. And then so I'm assuming at that time, like test strips is being worked on, the service industry stuff, it's like finishing up,
Yo, test
but it's
strips.
none of it's
Test
released.
strips. I actually think was
Yeah.
like probably done because I remember I was talking to Sharif and he had heard it because I saw Sharif like 4 times in like 7 days. Classic.
Word.
Sharif. He was like, "Yo, man, test this new." Well, he didn't say, he didn't tell me the title. He's just like, "Yo, this new Arm& Hammer, like it's like
Yeah.
nothing you're gonna expect." And I think he said something about live instruments. I think that's the only like little clue he gave. So I'm pretty sure it
Mhm.
was done. Another like journalist guy I saw there too. That trip
Mhm.
said it was like pretty much done, but I don't know.
Word. Okay.
And
But
Child
yeah,
Actor had
he's
like three
all
beats
that.
on that, right? Four beats, 3 beats, something like
He
that.
had, I think he only did one, but he was like one of the people in like the
Oh yeah, yeah,
band.
but he was in that the one of those people like as part of the jam sessions. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Yeah. But like he just had like all of that in the backlog, and he was like, "Man, I just want something out." It's like I'm doing things. And then he was like, "Let's just do an EP." And then that wound up becoming Sunscreen.
That's wild.
So
Yeah,
yeah.
like
Yeah.
it's yeah, Child Actor's a really good dude and I'm really happy he connected us because while
Mhm.
I wasn't there from the very beginning, I eventually got there, I think earlier than most, at least before when I got heard of this record, obviously I was like super excited. But I know this must have like introduced you in a lot of ways to new fans and I mean
Yeah.
the reception has been I think really great to see. And like this current scene right now that we're in New York specifically, but I would extend it out, but maybe just kind of sticking to New York for now.
Mhm.
I feel like there's this like youth movement of really forward thinking, boundary pushing music right now, and it's just like
Mhm.
insane. So many different styles. And I wonder how important has this community been to you when it comes to developing your skill set as an artist and then just like getting inspiration about where to take your art next, like direction wise.
It's been mad important. Honestly, they've all been like hard carrying me. I feel like just like the advice I get from like my peers has really helped me like develop my style and things like that. And then even just bringing up like the development of the art. Like I feel like emergency doesn't exist without like alchemy from Jay Cinema and Chow. Because like just hearing that, it was like, what the fuck is this? This is like so inspiring on like Jay's end, the way he's rapping, the beats he picked, and then on like Child's end, obviously producing it, but also like mixing it specifically, and just like the world that he was able to develop. And then also thinking about like with Hester, I wouldn't have that outside house connection without Hester, and I could go like on and on and on. But yeah, it's like just so even outside of like the direct line, point A, point B type thing, just also like inspiration. Like I mentioned, like before we were recording about like going to a show. It's just cool to be able to like I could just walk into Bushwick, Williamsburg, Ridgewood, even though I feel like we should expand outside of these areas into like other, but regardless, I could walk in there and go to a random bar and like the best rapper ever, who I may or may not have heard of, can just be rapping. And it's like word cool. I'm inspired.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, it must be such a treat to live in a place like where there's just so much talent just walking around. everywhere you
Mm,
fucking go. And the way you write and deliver your raps is something that I feel really sets you apart as an artist. You have this way of rapping that has like this guttural energy, like every rhyme is being like conjured from the depths of your soul. Like it's just like there's so much sheer force. I heard someone say
oh,
that
thanks a
about
lot.
your about this recent album, and I couldn't agree more. There's like this emotional catharsis, and like curious how you would describe your approach as a rapper. Like what goes through your body and mind when you're writing and recording a verse?
I guess like one thing that I prioritize is like I prioritize the writing first more than anything. Like I spend a lot of time just laboring over like the literal words, the like, oh, this word would sound better if I put it here instead of putting it here, and how can I make this sentence still be cohesive? Even though I'm like changing the words before even really thinking about, all right, this needs to flow a certain way. This needs to like feel a certain way. It's just like it needs to be written good. And I guess that's just like my background, my interest in like poetry, specifically like, the written work more than like in a spoken word sense. So that's like really important to me. And then I guess in regards to delivery, that's been more of a like a pretty recent development that I'm like really trying to be like, all right, I have all of these words, and now it's like time to actually make them sound good because as much as I love writing and like looking at a page, the way my art is going to be consumed is through like, the audio and shit like that. So I need to be like considerate of like, okay, cool, this sentence is good and this is a cool sentence. This is fire, but it sounds awkward as fuck. Like I feel like that's like if I like when I listen back to my older stuff and compare it to like sunscreen and beyond, I feel like the biggest thing is just like me having more consideration of the fact that like people are gonna be hearing things, so it needs to like sound good and like not sound awkward or like if it's going to be awkward, it needs to be very intentionally awkward. So I guess yeah, just like I don't know. I think I just like consider a lot in regards to like the art and just I don't know. Yeah. I
I
hope that
feel
made sense.
no, it did. I feel like this new album, like you really took that like a huge leap, honestly. Like it feels so night and day to where like you are trying so many different things with how you approach
Mm,
some of these songs. Like I think good examples, Foxhole. Like
mm,
that is a really like a really irregular flow or like cadence,
mm,
and I think the let me get their name here. BCV Baby, like
yeah.
the singing, the even her contributions to this song are in that same kind of like they connect. Like she does take that like really off, like again, I don't know the words, irregular, off kilter. It's just super strange the pocket and the flow and the cadence and how those words are
Mm,
delivered on that song throughout the hook and everything. But it's just incredible. Like and
mm,
I think of a few artists when I think about like some of your style and the way you approach rhymes. There's one I'll get to later, but one I'm thinking of because
mm,
you mentioned them earlier, Hester, like Hester
yeah.
Valentine.
Mm.
That
The goat.
man, the goat, like that's
Yeah.
one of the that was the first thing I really like noticed with because that the first thing I heard was Can't Cut My Hair. Is that the
Yeah.
yeah, with Outside House, which I did an album recommendation review for patrons. That thing
Mm,
is just insane, like so good.
yeah.
And the delivery
Mm,
from Hester is just unbelievable. It's so like I could not think of it. I couldn't think it until I heard it. And I think that's the same kind of feeling I get on a lot of these songs where it makes some of these like very poetic lines yours just pop like that
mm,
much more. Um, and when I think about this idea of your rhymes, like having this emotional weight to them, my brain makes that connection naturally to the fact that I understand your writing journey actually started in poetry. And so,
yeah.
like, how do you feel your writing chops as a poet influence the way you as a writer now approach like your music in your current day?
I guess it goes to what I mentioned before about like caring like OD about the written word. I remember like pretty early into like I guess my writing journey, my poetry journey. Like when you read a poem and you have like a bunch of line breaks and everything, and maybe like the structure is like all over the page. And obviously, writers are making very intentional decisions with that. But me and like my edgy teenage self, I was like, that's a crutch. I'm not gonna do that anymore. So I like hyper focused on like I just want sentences and I just stopped using any kind of structure. Like I got like a little notebook and I would write from margin to margin. And then it's like word, if the poem is going to be good, it's going to be because every single sentence is like really fucking incredible, you know? And I guess I kind of just like took that same approach to and just applied it to like my writing when I'm like writing raps or whatever. I guess it's like punchline rappers, even though I wouldn't consider myself like a punchline rapper on any level, but I think like the philosophy of a punchline rapper, where it's like every line is setting up something and then it punches you in the face. It's like, oh, that was crazy. Just trying to evoke that same feeling is something that I guess I really just care about or I find like really enjoyable to do. So I think that's probably like the biggest thing I took besides like I'll just go back to my old poems and I'm like, oh, this is a cool line. How can I incorporate this into a rap? That was what a lot of sunscreen wound up being. And then that's why we did like the little chapbooks we made for
Mm.
sunscreen. It was just like, oh yeah, I took from all of these poems, so here's the original poems, you know?
So would you say, because that's really fascinating, would you say like you kind of like as you write or the way you like you make your raps, like you prioritize a really good, dope, like in terms of like content, like a dope set of words, a dope set of lines,
Mhm.
and then you kind of after the fact, like, okay, how do I make this make sense for this song in terms of like how I say it and the flow?
Yeah,
So the flow is kind of
exactly.
like how do I, yeah, and that sounds really cool because that's what I feel on this lit new album. Like there are times where you're just like either saying an extra syllable or two, or you're like taking having an extra space when I wouldn't
Mhm.
expect it, but it's because you kind of, but you made it work though. So it's like, but it is very like not just like standard bar structures constantly. I think that's the way I'd say it.
Yeah. Yeah, I have like just like a note on my phone and then I'll just use that to write lines and then a lot of like bringing verses together is like it's like a jigsaw puzzle. All right, I have all of these lines. Now how do they connect? And then once it connect, it's like cool. Does that feel good? A lot of like me writing verses also involves me just like saying it over and over and over and just building it till it's complete. And then once I have the final thing, it's like the test of worthiness and is in part like does this feel good in my heart? Do I feel whatever emotion, joy, sadness, whatever, whatever? Do I really truly feel it? And then like, what the fuck am I even saying? Like, what does this even mean on the grand scheme of things? I think like Emergency was interesting because there are like songs and moments on there that like when I wrote it, it meant like, okay, here's like the baseline meaning. But once like the album was finished or like I was like mixing it, it was like, oh, I really see what I was doing here, even though I didn't realize it back then. I can see how I can connect it to like the larger themes of the album in an interesting way.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what's really fascinating. I mean, I think that just speaks to how like I guess focused your mind state was when you wrote this because that is what I've heard from a lot of people I've had on the show now where it's like you have a thought or an idea for a song, but then you realize, oh wait, this is even like more cool and
Yeah,
more powerful because it connected to like three other songs I have on this album, but I didn't mean
exactly.
it to. It's just that when I've been writing for the last year or 2 years, I'm the same person, obviously. So it's like authentically me. So naturally there will be
Hmm.
connections between what you thought of on October 2024 when you like wrote on your notepad and like a
Yeah.
year from then, you know? So that's
Hmm.
really cool. Yeah, and you know when like you have this way of like wrapping couplets, phrases that feel like they're like mantras that like stick in your
Hmm.
rib. And this is something like word for word when I thought of it when I'm listening to your music is word for word something I've said about one of my favorite rappers and one I think is literally your favorite, if not one of your favorite rappers,
Yes.
Elucid.
Hmm. Of
Like that
course.
is like the thing I've been saying about his music for like many years right now, but specifically since really since Haram, because I feel like that's like been that was like a turning point in the way he started to just slightly change the way he was rapping, where it got a lot even more impressionistic. I feel like
Hmm.
I always like the peak pre-Haram performance from Elucid is Paraffin, and the way he's rapping on
Wait.
Wait, go.
I wanna challenge that
Okay, okay, what did you just say?
slightly. I think you're off one project. I think it actually starts with
Small
we don't
bills?
play it straight.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're as you say that, you're right. I take that back. You're right. You're right.
Mhm.
With small bills, was that 2021 as well, right?
Nah, that was 2020. It
Oh,
was like
okay.
Halloween.
Okay, those are pretty close together. So that's where
Yeah,
I
that's why I
thought
was
that was a
like, it's like right
2021
there.
record. Yeah, because that was the line of demarcation. And that record is that's one of the albums of this decade that I think has aged the best in terms of me
Mm.
thinking it was quite good, but now I think it's like amongst his absolute best. But I really didn't think
Yeah,
that
I think
early
it's his
on.
best project.
Yeah, and it was that impressionistic thing where I was like, like I'm expecting I'm expecting Paraffin or even more Shrines rap
Yeah,
where
because he was
it's slightly more
just right
traditional.
to the, yeah,
It
exactly.
was more still in the world of conventional, even though it was still lucid and it's crazy different. But
Hmm.
yeah, like ever since that point, he's really just gone on another level with these like repetition, very poetic uh phrases and flows are just like go from spoken word to like rap. Like it's just crazy. And I think you really do that too. And I mean that as like the highest compliment. You do it in your own way,
So,
100%. And I wonder like how has Elucid's art like influenced your artistry?
I mean, well, Lucid's like the goat, the goat. He's just the best. I got introduced to Lucid. It had to be like shit don't rhyme no more. Like DJ Booth did an interview with him or something. I saw like the cover and I was like, oh, this is a cool cover. Let me just listen to the album. And I really fucked with it. And then that's, getting into like Paraffin and everything else with Elucid. And I remember he became my favorite rapper because he has this line on I think one of the joints on Save Yourself, where he's like, my mother said, all I gotta do is stay black and die. And like the only person I've ever heard say that was my own mother. So I was just
Oh,
like, oh, he's
is
just,
that like a
yeah.
saying?
Apparently it's a
Yeah, I
saying.
mean,
I
I
thought
never
my
heard. I
mom
thought
just
Lucid
had
made it up,
bars.
so but you know better.
So yeah, and just knowing like what I know of a Lucid's background is probably just like on some Black American shit. But yeah, so just off of that, and he also introduced me to a lot of my favorite poets, being like Amiri Baraka, Henry Dumas, so on and so forth. So I think there's obviously like that influence. It's like not only did his own writing influence me, but he led me, June Jordan, I go on to like some of my favorite poets and like their art, and then just like that influence there. Yeah, but I think like what you said, um, or what we were talking about like that line of demarcation between like quote unquote older Lucid and like quote unquote newer Lucid. I feel like newer Lucid just like speaks to my soul so much. Like Betamax is the greatest song of all time. It's just like it's just facts. It is what it is, you know. I listened to Revelator so much last year, and it was just like this is just hitting my spirit, my soul, and so much of a lucid just like hits my soul in a way that's like pushes me to want to like do better artistically, personally, also just kind of like forces me to reflect on myself in like a really interesting way. I don't know. I just really admire what he does and admires Elucid, the artist's presentation of his personage. Obviously I don't know him on a personal level, but like, you feel me?
Yeah, no, like even like when you mentioned Revelator, there's something about emergency that I appreciate, and I also appreciate in a Revelator is that like
Mhm.
man, it's really there's so many moments on both these albums where like you go from being either like metaphorical or just like pretty complex with some of like the statements you're making. But then there's points where you're like you kind of completely switch it and there's a powerful like couplet or a couple bars here and there where you're really fucking direct. And it's like
Yeah.
you feel it. And it's like there's no way around, there's no interpretation required. You just are saying what you're saying, and they're really usually, in my opinion, very important statements, very like thoughtful and accurate to like what's going on in the world right now. And I just love that like duality. with like the complexity, like we're talking about, like how you write and the way you're delivering and all these like interesting things, the beats, but then like there's these moments that just smack you in the fucking face.
Yeah. I
And
mean, yeah, that's just like the feeling sometimes. I don't know, especially with like this album, it was like there's just so many feelings and it's like a fine line between like I don't know, maybe not corny's not the word. Oh, shock value.
shock
There
value.
we
Okay.
go. Shock value. When you like have something triggering and then you just say the triggering thing as is in a super triggering way. And then it's like I don't quite want to do that because I recognize that like at least for emergency, a lot of like the context surrounding the album is like triggering stuff that happened to me. That it's like I don't want to say it like that, but there are like things surrounding here that I can like point at and be like, yeah, I need to say this in the way that it existed and happened to me and things like that, you know?
You
Hmm.
know, would one of some of the inspirations, I guess, to some of the things you were describing on this album, like was that, did you like open yourself up to kind of like absorbing more of those inspirations and put that on this album more than you have on past projects? Like, do you feel like you were a lot more vulnerable and like bare, you laid your soul bare, I guess you could say, on this album than past ones, or what would you say
Yeah,
to that?
most definitely. I think this is like kind of easily my like most vulnerable project. And I think it's because I was like more comfortable showing my flaws in a more direct sense instead of like a more like general, oh, I'm not the best person in the world. I can be selfish sometimes too, or whatever the case might be. And a lot more just like, man, I had this really fucked up thought and I'm like sitting and pondering as to what that says about me. So here I'm gonna like put it out in a song and things like that. And I think that's also because of like thinking about like Elucid. Elucid has that line on it's on I Told Bessie. I'm blanking on the name of the joint, but it's there'd be no blues if I was blameless.
I think
You know, that
it's
line,
the slower
yeah,
song. It's yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
It's
I know
Seb
the one.
Bash. I
Yeah.
know, yeah, word. But yeah, like that one. It's like that feels like that was kind of the philosophy of emergency, at least to me, in the sense of like, yeah, there are bad things that happen to me and I experience and things like that. But like there'd be no blues if I was blameless. I need to like, where's my blame in like the way I live and things like that, and really just like exploring that. And I feel like even a lot of the stuff that I've like been working on since like finishing emergency and things like that, I feel like that idea of like there's no blues without like me take without like, you know, if I was blameless is like kind of like the identity of Shamar the artist, you know, just exploring that and what that means and like the consequences of that.
Interesting. Yeah, I think the song was Ghoulie or Impasse. I don't know which
It was
one.
Impasse.
Impasse? I think, is that a
Yeah.
lasso beat actually? Or is that Ghoulie?
Nah, that one is that's Seb
Oh, it
Bash.
is Seb Bash. Yeah.
Yeah, Ghoulies
Man,
Lasso.
Elucid Seb Bash coming up soon, and we hear.
Yes,
Fuck, man, that's
sir. We're eating
crazy.
good this year.
That's crazy. That's crazy. You know, so on top of being a really talented rapper, you're also a talented producer. So like, how does creating as both a beat maker and rapper kind of like mutually benefit the other? Like, do you find working on raps help you unlock new ideas as a producer and vice versa?
Um, I think working on beats helps me as a rapper a lot more than like rapping helps me as a producer. I feel like rapping and writing is just like so separate from it.
Mm.
But I do like while I'm making beats, it makes me like more considerate of like flows, just like the process of finishing a beat and like, oh, it'd be cool if someone did X, Y, and Z over this beat, even if that's someone, it could be me, it could not be me, whatever the case might be. But I don't know. Generally, when it comes to production, I especially my own production, I don't really tend to like think about myself in the context of my production too much. I feel like besides like my very, very first project being like fully produced by me, and that was more just like I didn't know anyone else. So I just kind of have to do everything. I just know like too many super talented producers. It's like I don't even want to rap. Like, why would I rap on my thing when I can rap on a Sasco beat? or like a beat from Kill, from Outside House, from Child Actor. I literally don't have to produce for myself. But like I also find it really fun to like just make beats. And I don't know, I think I've made like a lot of cool stuff. Like I think like Money for Water, Where is Fox, so on and so
Hmm.
forth, J Cinema, and I really enjoy like the process, especially when it comes to like working on a project with someone, just like seeing where ideas build up and things like that. I feel like production gives me access to like other people's artistic processes in a way that like being a rapper doesn't. And I guess
Interesting.
that also influences me because it's like, word, I'm hearing like, oh, so when you get a beat, you do X, Y, and Z. Maybe I could try when I get a beat doing X, Y, and Z too and see like how that turns out for me.
Yeah, that's really cool because like as someone who doesn't create music myself but like talks to people who do, it always strikes me how much making music is a lot about formulas and like breaking
Yeah.
formulas and also establishing formulas. So much in the process can just change everything, like change the result
Mhm.
completely. So that makes a lot of sense. And so like when we're talking about the subject matter, how vulnerable emergency is, I think the part that's pretty notable about it too is that while you're talking about a lot of like personal things, you're also able to distill political feelings or feelings you have towards some things going on in the world with such clarity and depth. Like it's something that really shines on this album. You make a lot of like really thoughtful, poignant statements and reflections. And it's wild because you're really young. Like you're young enough to make me feel old. So like now we're at that stage where I'm 30 now. I actually look at people and I'm like, damn, I'm old. So but I wonder like how did you develop this like political understanding as you grew up? Like how did that look like for you?
I think the baseline is definitely like my pops. When I was in like fifth grade, sixth grade, he gave me like the autobiography of Malcolm X.
Wow,
And it was just like
that's
I just
dope.
like the back then I was just reading books. You give me a book to read, I was like, "Ooh, this is a long ass book." So I just sped through the book, and I fucked with it. I was like, Malcolm X, yeah, that nigga hard. And then I kind of just like developed this thing of like just re. That's probably the book I've read the most. I basically read it at least once a year, and then
Wow.
slowly but surely every year, just like, oh, this is a new thought I have. This is a new thought I have, and just as I guess I as a person have become more complex, my understanding of like Malcolm X's complexities have become a lot more clear in a really cool way. So that's been like a big level. Also obviously like my own like personage being a black person in America and things like that, especially like really like gaining consciousness during like the earlier parts of like the Black Lives Matter movement. Like I very vividly remember like Trayvon Martin and like the George Zimmerman trials and like all that bullshit, and that kind of just left a mark on me. And then also like No Name, when No Name like when she got like dogged on Twitter because she was like, man, you can do capitalism good. And everyone was like, no, No Name, you can't do it good. And then she like, as her politics developed, I remember she posted this book that she was reading, which was the Huey P. Newton Reader, which had basically like some speeches from him, collection of his books, or whatever. And I just like brought it, and then I just started reading it. But this was like the top of 2020, so I like
Hmm.
started reading. It's like, oh, this is cool. And then the pandemic happened, and then we all know what happened like just throughout 2020. So that kind of just like forced me to become more aware and just to engage with like myself and my peers and my community at like I guess a deeper level. And then just, I don't know, I try to like continue to engage at that deep level. I recognize that like, I don't know, I always feel like I have like more work to do. So when I'm like presenting things in raps, I always have like a sense of anxiety when it comes to that. So hearing that it's like, no, this is like good. And this not even just good as in like in the sense that you agree, but good in the sense like this is poignant, this is important,
Hmm.
or whatever. That means a lot to me personally. But yeah, I just my environment, my interests, the people who interest me also inherently being pretty political. So
Remind me, what did she say about the No Name? No Name has gotten into a lot of controversies, most of the
yeah.
time very unfairly so. But
Mhm.
What did she say about that? Like capitalism's good. Like what did
This
that actually? What was that actually
this
like?
was
I'm
like
forgetting.
it was like it was basically like, when niggas are like, it's not capitalism that's the issue. It's the people who abuse it. It was
Yes, yeah.
basically like that shit.
And she
And
like
niggas,
was trying to make that. She just like went on like a little tangent on Twitter about that.
yeah, I don't remember
Interesting.
why or how. This was like way before the book club and everything. This is like
Oh, so
2018,
this has to
2019.
be pre-2020. I thought the book club has been
Yeah.
on. Oh, okay, okay. I thought you said it was in 2020. I'm like, I feel like she's been off that for a while. Okay, yeah.
Mhm.
That makes sense. Yeah, it's she's really fascinating. Like I think I think like 90% of the time, 95% of the time, it's just like the wackest
Mhm.
people in the world getting mad at her. I do think she just kind of
Yeah.
like it's one of those things. She's super popular, but I
Mm.
feel like she kind of needs to someone needs to do her PR sometimes. Because sometimes
Yeah, maybe.
she steps into things where like I know what you're
Mhm.
getting at, but like you didn't say it the best. But it's like that's like
Yeah.
not like a that's like one of those things where it's like it can't two things can be true. Like I could have a critique about that, but that's irrelevant. Like that really doesn't
Yeah. She's like,
focusing on that as even like a
yeah.
thing. No Name's a great. She seems like a really great person and is doing like
Mm.
so much of like the walking the talk that
Yeah.
people could only dream of. Pardon the interruption, but if you're watching this on YouTube, please hit the subscribe, like the video, and hit the bell as well. And if you're checking this out on podcast platforms, please follow the show, leave a rating, leave a review if possible. This will help the algorithm do its thing and get more people tapped in. Thank you so much. Now back to the show. With a title of Emergency as the album, like the lyricism on this album feels deeply relevant and
Mm.
prescient to like the current situation we are in this moment in the world. And I feel like you really met that moment. Like there's this visceral realness to your writing on this album that I
Yeah.
feel is in direct conversation with what's happening in the world. Like you say things on this album where you're not even very specific. You don't even need to be very specific. I just
Mm.
like exist and I like read the news and I'm like, oh fuck. Like it's not hard to be like, what are you talking? Like you are specific,
Yeah.
but I mean, even when you're not very specific and you're a little more broad, it just feels
Mm.
so damn relevant listening to this album and then checking out what's been going on in the world. And I
Yeah.
wonder, like, do you aspire your music, or maybe just specifically this album in particular, I don't know, to be
Mm.
a vessel to kind of like inspire some form of like political action or engagement within listeners?
Um, I don't think I like super actively do that. I think like if that happens, it's like word cool because you should. I don't remember in what interview, but I was just like, I don't know, the lesson of the album, quote unquote, is like, bro, go outside. And that naturally means go engage with the world. Like, don't just like stand outside, but go engage with the world and whatever that looks like. Engage with yourself deeper to engage with the world deeper. And I think naturally that probably should lead to like some well thought out, serious political action because that is what we need right now. But I wouldn't say that's like the 100% active intention. I think I'm like a pretty like selfish writer. I'm just like writing for the sake of like writing or like just like getting my shit off, just like trying to like feel something internally. But I think it's cool that it can be like externalized in that way and that people can take it. I will never like be like absolutely not. No, don't do that thing because I don't feel that way, but it's not like the full intention.
Yeah, no, I really like that sentiment of like going outside because it really I feel like nine like such a large portion of our problems there are those psychopathic like just terrible people in the world that
Yeah.
they're they're like not you can't do anything about them or you could do something about them but they were raised in this environment where it's like really hard to like de-radicalize these
Yeah.
reactionary people, but like I feel like most of the people in the world, if they just had to force them to just like live with like the people that they supposedly hate for like like a year, 5 months in a
Yeah.
community where you just have to like regularly be around the people you
Mm.
think are like these like disgusting, lazy savages, whatever. That could be like insert any race, insert any fucking
Yeah.
religion. You just will instantly not feel that way. It's just like the classic thing of like all the studies say like the way to people to have less racist xenophobic beliefs is like, do you have other people who look different than you or like believe things differently in your regular day to day? It's really that simple.
Yeah.
And especially
Hmm.
with like social media, the internet, it's getting increasingly easy for people to literally just like not go outside and to just
Yeah,
chill in their
exactly.
algorithm, and then you're just a victim
You get
to
swallowed by
whatever that
that.
is.
Exactly.
Terrible. So I love that.
Hmm.
Just going outside doesn't even obviously go to a protest if you believe in that shit and you want to do it, but like even just going like be social. Like don't be antisocial, I think is like
Exactly.
super
Yeah.
important. Like in contrast with your last project, produced by Child Actor, which was definitely a lot more ethereal, bright sounding. This new record is
Hmm.
still psychedelic, but like in an absolutely different way. These beats feel like mutilated. They feel like deconstructed, destroyed, abrasive, noisy. The texture's incredible. The
Hmm.
sonic blueprint I just would call it is sonic chaos. And
Yeah.
so like talk to me about why you chose to go in this very experimental, jagged sonic direction with Emergency.
Well, there's a couple layers to it. One of them is just Outside House is fucking sick.
Outside Us is the
Um,
best. Like
yeah,
legitimately,
I
she's
think
just like
no,
incredible.
yeah, she needs to be up here with August Fanad, Chuck,
Yes,
all these
yes.
niggas. But I feel like when I heard of her through Hester, he sent me his first album. It was a bit before it came out. So this had to be like maybe like late summer, early fall 2023. So at that point, Sunscreen was like written and it was probably recorded. So I was just like, oh, what do I do next? And then I'm just hearing this shit. And it's like, what the fuck is this? So just also getting to know Outside House and then like finally getting that first pack. I knew like one of my goals for whatever the fuck I was working on was like, I want Outside House, but I don't want the same Outside House that Hester got. I want to see what else is in that bag. What else? And Outside House's bag, their bag is deep. It's very, we haven't even scratched the surface, truthfully. But yeah, so there was like that level to it, just like I know I want something different. I think a lot of it was kind of just like my mood. I was just going through a lot. I was like, I was kind of just crashing out, and I wanted music to like reflect that and like really capture that moment. And Outside House just really did that. She really laid like the sonic blueprint for the album. Um, but then like beyond that, beyond like the crash out, when I'm like overcoming that and then like, all right, I still need to finish this album. That's where you get like the Sasko joints, for example, the Kilimanjaro joints. And I think it's just kind of like, I don't know. I think I wanted like something beautiful, but I guess I think about, like when people talk about New York and they're like, man, New York is such a beautiful place. And they're just talking about like the skyscrapers in Manhattan. I think those shits are ugly as fuck. I think the most beautiful part of New York is like my neighborhood in fucking East New York, where like niggas just be on the corner, wholesome, even if they're doing like quote unquote diabolical things, it's still wholesome and like genuine and things like that. And it's like there are kids playing with the fucking the fire hydrant water or whatever, or like the dingy ass park with like mad fucking trash in it. And I kind of just wanted like that album to sound like that. So, it's just like, yeah, this is beautiful, but it's also like fucked because like things are fucked, but it's fucked in a beautiful way.
No, I love that. There's someone that's I hate that I'm referencing other interviews and I don't remember the specifics. Someone said
Hmm.
uh that like there was this concept of beautiful ugly, and I
Yeah.
remember that really resonated with me because it's something that I feel a lot of artists have spoken to, and
Hmm.
some from New York, some from other places. That same vibe exactly, where it's like that's the beauty. It's not like this super manicured, like super clean
Yeah,
skyscraper, but
exactly.
yeah, like, and I think the album sounds exactly as you're saying, and it is
Hmm.
beautiful. I would definitely characterize this as beautiful, but it's just beautiful in such a noisy way. And like within this discordant, noisy soundscape on Emergency, like how did this brand of production challenge you as far as like writing and delivering your vocals as a rapper?
I think it forced me to slow down. I remember like really early on into like me being a rapper, I sent one of my friends a demo and she was like, "This is really sick. I wish you would slow down." And that's kind of just lived in my head so fucking rent free. Like every time I do like a verse, it's like, oh, am I rapping too quick? Oh my goodness. So I think with
Was this
emergency, I
a
really
verse for this record?
no, this is like old, like
Oh,
a
like
while ago.
oh, early
Yeah.
on. Okay, okay.
Yeah. So I think with this record, I really like challenge myself to like slow down. Like, and I think that's another level to like, I guess kind of going back to the previous question. I really just wanted to just challenge myself, like on some like I'm a really good rapper shit. I want to be a really good rapper. Like a fucking like Goku. I gotta get stronger type thing. And my exercise was like slowing down. That's how you get like destroy, not destroy, build. Well, kind of destroy, build, destroy. But I meant to say I'm not a doctor, especially like just the slow crawl, like born, made for boom, box, and everything. It was like, yeah, I'm gonna like slow down. I'm gonna put more force and just see how that turns out. And it just worked out really well. So that was probably like a big thing, especially because like I think the pockets of the beats that I got from Outside House, they're not like you can't be like you can be there's a certain level of like acrobaticness you can do. It's like avoiding lasers. Because the lasers are like all of the fucking noise on the thing. So I think with that, with like Destroy, Build, Destroy, with like the first track, it's like where can I land and how can I land in a way that like feels nice and isn't like clashing with the insanity of the beats too hard.
I feel like it's like I wouldn't even say it's avoiding lasers feels like it's shortchanging how fucking crazy these beats are. I almost feel like it's like one of those things in a movie where you're like you have this like it's like a whole mass of force and it's like the protagonist just trying to like the Spider-Man trying to like stop a moving train type shit. That's what I feel
Yeah.
like it is. It's just like oh no. This noise is just like fucking like taking I feel like this whole album is like an earthquake. It's like fucking
Mhm.
shaking. It's falling to pieces, but you're still there, like whole willing it together. You're like willing this album to like make sense, and it does.
Mhm.
It's crazy. And I mean, I think I kind of based on what you're saying, it feels like when you're talking about like some of your growth as an artist, it feels like the way that you deliver the rhymes feels to be like how you would say is like your what you would characterize as like the thing that's improved the most over your past
Yeah.
records. Would you say that's the case?
Definitely. Yeah,
Yeah.
easily. Super
Mhm.
easily.
Yeah, yeah, because like that alongside with just like how seamless this record's put together, like a something we haven't really talked about as much, but just like man, it really like Outside House definitely is the blueprint and the foundation, so that's like a natural cohesion, but man,
Uh-huh.
it just really flows nicely, and I really like it ending with the Money for Water track because yeah, it felt like a slightly smoother by this album standards, crazy feature, and I think it ended. It almost felt like a nice reprieve after. I have to mention it that Def C feature too,
Oh my
which is
God.
just like I texted him
Unbelievable.
when I had heard it like fourth, fifth time, and it kind of like clicked what he was saying. And I was like, man, like that's like one of the craziest verses I've ever heard. Like,
Yeah,
period. I
yeah.
couldn't believe it was so raw, so honest, so personal. And the
Mm.
beat too was just like fucking chaos. I was like, man, this is making me so emotional. Like, Jesus, like, are you like it was one of those where it's like, damn, I didn't even know if I should have heard that. Like, that felt too personal. It felt,
No, no, I
yeah.
had like the exact same fucking react, bro. Because I sent him the feature, and I just gave him like, here, just kind of what the album's about. This is what I'm talking about. This is what Glitch is talking about. Cool, cool, cool. And then maybe like a week or two later, it was just silence, and he's like, boom, I got you. Here you go. And then I'm like listening to this for the first time, and it's like, why didn't he put this on the Parallel Thought album? Why is this on my album? This feels like it shouldn't be mine. Like, did you send this file to the wrong person? This is like it feels like a therapy session.
Hmm.
And I didn't, he didn't pay no copay. He just was like, word, here you go. But yeah, that verse is like everyone I sent it to like everyone immediately. And I was like, fuck the song. I felt like Loki on that joint. I felt like no offense to he's an amazing rapper, but I felt like Earl on Tabla Rasa, where it was like, dog, I kind of got boxed, kind of got cooked. You have like these two titans standing next to me, and I'm like, oh yeah, this is my album, by the way. But
That's
yeah, that verse
crazy.
is super unbelievable.
Man, yeah, for real. Okay, so I have a patron question here from
Mm.
Evbot Evan, um, who wants to ask you that like so given that each project song that you drop tends to really push creative limits in a new way, is the boundary pushing like intentional? Like, is that kind of just like your modus operandi, or is it more just like a byproduct of how you create when you're trying to do something new, or is that yeah, like is that like the default setting, or is this something where it just kind of happens that way?
Um, I guess it just all kind of happens that way. Um, I think I just focus on like pushing myself. And I also think just because of like my influences and like where I started with my first project, I feel like Sound of Summer is kind of weird in of its own right. Just like the beats I like happen to rap on. One of the beats is like niggas arguing and like a loop and like looping for like 30 fucking seconds. You know, it's just shit is just happening. So I think it's just like I just kind of like go off vibes. It's like word, this is what I feel right now. This is what I feel like rapping on right now. I think emergency, I like kind of recognized that I was like quote unquote pushing boundaries. But I feel like the way that it's been received is like low-key surprising because it feels like others are receiving it as pushing boundaries a lot more than I'm receiving it as like pushing boundaries.
Interesting.
But I think that's also like knowing my peer group. Like I'm friends with Millennium. I hear the craziest Millennium beat
Hmm.
on like a daily basis. So I listen to Emergency. It was like, oh yeah, this is cool. Millennium is pushing boundaries. Hester, Sasko, they're pushing boundaries. I'm just kind of like doing a thing adjacent to that, you know?
I feel like what you're right in that sense. Like this isn't like off the map experimental and and crazy in comparison to other records that are in in this similar community that you're part of in this similar scene. I just think it's the execution of it sounding this good. Like I think it's really just that simple. Like it's just the
Yeah.
fact that like yeah, there might be beats or songs that are this wild, but like on the course of like a 40-minute album, it being just so seamless, so just well put together, no filler. It's just like I think an achievement in the sense of it just being executed really well, executing the vision. I agree, it is also boundary pushing, but I think it's also more just like, well, damn, like he made it really good though. He made it like actually special.
Thank
Like
you.
that's
Yeah.
crazy. Like that's the real impressive thing at the end of the day is just like the execution of the vision, really.
No, I was just gonna say, I think that's probably like, or at least just after I finish, like once I finish this, it's like that's what I really want to like hone in on more than anything. It's just like execute. I want to continue to like execute on this level and beyond, regardless if it sounds like something you're quote unquote like more used to or something that might be like a bit more like boundary pushing. I just want it to be like good, you know?
Hmm. Word. Okay, and I have one last patron question here. RMP patron
Mm.
question from Kosey.
The
Uh,
goat.
the question is, what is something that you wish? I think this is a really interesting question. I've never asked this before. What is something that you wish someone, an interviewer, would ask you about the project that hasn't come up so far? Just like anything you really wanted to talk about or say that it hasn't really been prompted by anybody.
Mm. Mm. I think there are discussions of gender, my gender identity, gender in general that like play a big role on the album that like haven't really come up. I think it's cool to like bring this up in in the context of her question because like her and I have talked about it like
Hmm.
privately, you know, but I think yeah, I think that's probably like the biggest thing that hasn't really come up. I feel like even like the shit like the topic of Foxhole and like the point of that song has come up more than like the gender stuff. I think that's probably like but I don't know, maybe like yeah, I guess like besides like super hyper specific, oh, and on track one at this second you said, besides like questions like that, maybe just like about like gender identity and shit in general.
And would you say like that's just something that like that topic is something that you feel like you were making statements about yourself or about how it's talked
Yeah.
about? I know there's one. I think you even tweeted about this because I remember seeing it. Um, you would know the line because I remember you specifically called it out. Something you say
Yeah.
gender. Do you know the line I'm talking about that you say?
It could be involving gender. There's like on
I
Origin,
think you say it's very
Exalt.
explicit,
Yeah.
that one. I think it's the one that's pretty explicit.
There's oh, like blackness in response to gender essentialism. There's like Exalt Spirit from Gender Performance. Oh man, there's the one on
No, there's the
like
one where you're
fucking
saying
Hero
about there's
Pod.
one you're saying about like uh pseudoscience
Oh,
until all the
pseudoscience till
that
it's
one was
gender involved.
so
Yeah,
could you break down for people what you meant by that? Because I think I'm pretty positive I know what you meant, but like could you just break that
yeah.
one down real quick?
Um, I got one. I guess this is also like I got beef with Hoteps. I hate Hotep niggas. But that was like my big like. So that song, Hero Pond, it's like we ain't free until they free too. Word to Mavi, that obvious. All pseudoscience till it's gender involved and love to the law. I was thinking about like niggas who have conspiracies about like the government. Like, oh man, they're out to get us, all these black people, and then when a woman is like, yo, this dude beat me, and then like but he like gets off scot-free by the law, everyone's like, oh, see, the government said that he didn't beat you, so women just lie all the time. I guess I was just thinking about like shit like that, just like in and not to like strictly like make it a, well, obviously I guess I made it a gender thing in the law, in the context of the line, because this usually is like
Hmm.
men using the law to be like, this is 1000% definitive proof that you, a woman, are fucking lying, and
Yeah.
all women lie and shit like that. That's, it just spirals from there. So I was just thinking about shit like that.
Yeah, you're the fact that you bring this up, I'm glad this question came up because I don't think I like fully took that away as something that was pretty consistent theme about like
Mhm.
gender identity on this album. But now that you're mentioning some of the lines, it's like, oh yeah, that does come up more than I expected. It's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so looking forward now, like any projects, tour dates, release shows, maybe for this album that you want to call out for fans, merch, anything like that?
um okay, here I gotta get on this day, the day that this, you should be listening to this, the day in which it came
Unless
out,
you're a patron, then you can
comes
get this
out.
early. But yes,
Oh, yeah,
continue.
you get it early.
Yeah.
So you should be a patron. So in the future, you get it early. But if you don't, this day, June 18th, this is one of the three things that are happening this interview right now. Also, the album release show at Trans Picos with Centennial Gardens, One Aki Bulon, Muddy Stone, and Delete Glitch coming all the way from fucking Florida. Crazy shit.
Damn.
But also, if you go to my Bandcamp and hopefully my Spotify and Apple Music, if DistroKid doesn't fail me, there's a 2-pack. It's called Progress Report. It's really sick. You should go listen to that shit. Production from Delete Glitch and Nakama. Yay.
Sick.
Um, on the 20th, I'm album that I produced for Where Is Fox is dropping. It's called The Day After. It's really fucking cool. Good music. Merch. I'm gonna do cassettes, hopefully, and CDs, and I don't know, fuck t-shirts. What the
This is
fuck?
a really sick cover. I
Um,
would not mind having this kind of thing on a
yeah, bro.
shirt
I want
some way.
I want to really do a t-shirt for the Gargoyles cover that Brian Kwan did.
Oh, I feel like I remember. Let me see that again. Because I remember
Yeah,
actually I didn't
it's
even notice what it was until I posted a story with that song because it has like the single cover and I don't think I like had seen it
yeah.
before.
Mm.
Let's see. Oh yeah, that is pretty sick. That is pretty
Yeah,
sick.
he's like the best artist ever. But yeah, I want to do a lot of stuff for the album. Besides that, and like the 2-pack, no like super real new music for a while. Please just stream the album.
Hmm.
You can still listen to Sunscreen too. Sunscreen is really cool. But yeah, that's really it.
You know, after there's one thing I want to quickly bring up. After I posted a particular tweet directly asking for this, I feel like I got confirmation or like somewhat confirmation that this is in the works.
Oh,
Will you
yeah.
and Hester Valentine form a group together? Is this
Um,
actually a real
I don't
thing?
know. Okay, I don't know if we are going to be forming a group that implies the implication of more than one thing,
Mm-hmm.
but we do have one thing. Uh, I don't think it's produced by Sasco. It's fucking sick.
Oh shit.
When will it come out? Shit, hopefully next year. We gotta stop bullshitting. But yeah, it's really cool. It's really cool.
So you guys actually have a project together produced by Sasco. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Man,
Yeah.
Sasco, if you guys listening aren't as tapped in, you've probably, if you're fans of the show, you've probably heard some of Sasco's work by now, but just keep that name in
Yo.
mind. There's that Sin
Yeah.
Mundi album coming next
Yeah.
month that is
Yep.
just like, man,
Unbelievable.
I think I told you this personally, right, Shamar? I was
Mhm.
like, listening to this album, Emergency was kind of like I felt like that Shaq meme. It's like I'm so I apologize. I wasn't familiar with the game. Like I was a huge fan, but I just didn't know this was possible. I was like, okay, holy shit. My whole
Yeah.
like conception of you as an artist has just changed. Now I'm like, oh my God, this is
Yeah.
incredible. I have a similar feeling with Sasco with that's after that Sin Mundi album
Bro.
because
That shit
I'm blown away by
unbelievable.
the production in a way. I'm like just like
Unbelievable.
this is so pretty. Like holy shit,
Yeah.
man. Holy fuck. So,
Mhm.
yeah. But, all right, man. Like, this Emergency album is just legitimately so fucking good. Like, I don't feel like it's just one of the best of the year. I think this is, like, going to be one of the more seminal works when people look back decades from now about, like, oh, man, that
Much
late
love.
2010s, early 2020s, like, movement of just, like, all of these young people making incredible music that was, like, just pushing the genre and like the coolest places. And yeah, I'm just like really proud. Literally warms my heart listening to this. So just like can't wait to see where you come from here. And thanks so much for coming on.
Yeah, I'm grateful. Thank you. Thank you.
This
Much
was
love.
this was dope. This was dope. I really appreciate it. Thank you for listening to another episode of the Rap Music Plug podcast. If you enjoyed this episode and want to not only support the show, but join the fastest growing community of like minded indie rap fans, go to patreon.com, search for the Rap Music Plug podcast, and become a patron. You will gain access to an exclusive patron only Discord that me and 70 plus people engage with on the regular, as well as other patron only benefits such as bonus episodes, album recommendation reviews, early access to regular episodes, and much more. So if you have any questions about any of the Patreon stuff or just want to keep tabs on the show, interact with me on rap music and all the great stuff that we can talk about, follow me on Twitter and Instagram at rapmusicplugpod or shoot me an email at qlctv.podcast@gmail.com. You can also rate and review the show on Apple Podcasts and subscribe on YouTube and Spotify as well. But that's enough self promotion for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Peace.